A very good morning to all of you, and a very warm welcome to all of you present here today. Honorable Vice-Chancellor of Hindi University, Professor Nandini Sahu ma'am, esteemed guests and distinguished speakers, Professor Savita Singh ma'am, and Professor Shabina Nishat Omar ma'am. It is my privilege to extend a warm welcome to each of you to this webinar on comparative world literatures organized by Hindi University West Bengal. We are delighted to host this enriching dialogue on the multifaceted realm of world literatures, and we feel honored to have your presence here today. Now, without any delay, I would like to introduce our Vice Chancellor and the Chairperson of Hindi University's organized webinar Comparative World Literature, Professor Nandini Sahu ma'am. She is a renowned academician, poet, and creative writer, currently serving as the Vice Chancellor of Hindi University, West Bengal, India. With an illustrious academic background, she previously headed the School of Foreign Languages at IGNOU, New Delhi. A prolific author of 23 books, Professor Sahu is a best selling author on Amazon. Her academic achievements include double gold medals in both graduation and post graduation, and as well as the prestigious literary award gold medal from the Vice President of India for her outstanding contributions to English studies. She has recently been honored with the Michael Madhusudan Academy Award in 2024, a Lifetime Achievement Award in 2024, and her latest publication, Medusa, is a testament to her literary prowess. Recently, in the year 2025, she has been honored by Tagore Samman. Sahu's Professor Sahu's research expertise encompasses new literatures, critical theory, folklore, and more, cementing her reputation as a leading authority in Indian English literature and education. Now, I would like to request Professor Nandini Sahu ma'am for the inaugural speech. Ma'am, please.
Thank you so much, Paramita, for this very generous introduction. Namaskar, Savita ji, and Namaskar, Shabina ji. I welcome all of you, both of you, to our Hindi University special lecture series on comparative world literatures. I'm so glad to see that today two eminent scholars dealing with more or less similar areas of research are together, and they will be contributing to this very important lecture series. Comparative world literatures is an upcoming department in Hindi University. So, for the information of Professor Savita Singh and Professor Shabina, I would like to put it on record that we are a university dealing with humanities and social sciences, and particularly languages. We have MA Hindi, we have MA Translation Studies, and we have History, Political Science, and some upcoming departments. And our faculty members are deeply engaged in research vis-a-vis language preservations, translations, and literature, even history, historiography, and our journal, which is Hindi University Journal of Interdisciplinary Studies, which is introduced very recently. The first issue, July to December issue, will be launched next month. Even the first issue is dealing with comparative world literatures, and it's going to be published very soon. And our faculty members have shown a lot of interest in gender studies, and one of our colleagues is doing series of lectures on gender studies as well. And about Savita ji and Shabina ji, I'm very glad that they agreed to be a part of our lecture series, where many important researchers, scholars, and professors have already contributed. If you look at the YouTube series, I mean the YouTube channel, Professor Savita Singh is a signature voice, a very important voice in Indian literature, even world literature. and she has designed many courses in the Department of Gender Studies in IGNOU, and she is an eminent Hindi poet. Many poets in the country try to, follow the style, the technique that she has been writing in, and I'm one of those. I read her poetry very seriously and with lot of interest. I read her poetry. Apart from being a creative writer, what I admire most about Professor Savita Singh is she is an established theorist as well. Very recently, she was doing a literary theory workshop where many scholars from the country across the disciplines, very interdisciplinary workshop that was, she conducted it successfully, and she trains the trainers, and she creates a research base, lot of theorists, a pool of theorists in the country. So maybe that is her major contribution, though Paramita is going to read her biodata in detail, but at least from my side, the things that I admire about her are her poetry, and of course her literary theory, the expertise. That's what I do, and we have been colleagues in IGNO since 2 decades or so, and I have met her on several occasions. I have listened to her recitation. We have shared days several times, and today I'm so glad that Savita ji is a part of Hindi University lecture series. And madam, your lecture will be recorded. I'm going to listen to it very carefully and get back to you when we design our syllabus on comparative world literatures. You will certainly be one of the major voices to help us, to guide us. And with this, I welcome you once again to the Hindi University Lecture Series.
Thank you.
And about Shabina ji, she's one of the most sincere scholars and writers and professors and even administrators in West Bengal. She is into many administrative, positions, and in by capacity, she has been dealing with many institutions. Paramita will read out her biodata. But for me, she is a person who is extremely committed and dedicated to the work that she accepts. Even at the, sometimes when I designed courses for my university IGNO, she was a part of the course material design committee. She was a part of the team, and she was one of the first scholars and contributors who used to submit the work dot on time. She would never delay her work. She has that kind of commitment to research and work that is definitely quality oriented, zero plagiarism, quality oriented. She used to take care of those things. Even she is a part of our academic counseling sessions, and also she is, she's a writer, a literary critic. She has wide publications, and she's very popular in West Bengal and also in other parts of the country. I have met her in many webinars. We have shared this and many webinars, and today her lecture is going to be kind of important contribution to Hindi University lecture series. Both of you are going to speak on different subjects. I'm glad that Savita ji is speaking on, the Nobel laureate and the contribution, and what else can we expect at this point of time that only last week it is announced, and today a very contemporary topic you have taken. I'm so glad that you are doing this. And Sabina is going to talk about blue humanities, ocean humanities, green studies, and all of that vis-a-vis world literature. It's a very upcoming area of research, and I'm sure that your research is going to be helpful to us. I welcome both of you once again to the Hindi University special lecture series on comparative world literatures. I would log out after a few minutes, and I would listen to the two of you, and then get back to you with my questions, if any. Thank you and welcome. And yes, Dr. Paramita, congratulations. She is the coordinator of Hindi department, Translation Studies department, and also she's our public relations officer. She is doing very well. She's coordinating this series with a lot of efficiency. Right, Paramita.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yes,
Such a pleasure to meet so many dynamic women early in the morning. It's a very
yes,
good start to the day. Thank you.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, Nandini. It's indeed a pleasure to
right.
meet you in a different role,
Yeah.
uh, not as a colleague just in the neighborhood or on the first floor or something. I, I have actually, it's also an opportunity to congratulate you for the position that you have found yourself now serving. Wonderful. Good.
Thank you. Now, moving forward, it will be my great pleasure to introduce our first speaker today, Professor Savita Singh, ma'am. She is the professor and founder director of the School of Gender and Development Studies, IGNOU. Professor Savita Singh is a distinguished feminist poet and political theorist with notable works in Hindi and English. Her poetry collections include A Life Like Ourselves, There Was Sleep and the Night, Dreamtime, The Sorrow of Lost Things. Professor Singh has also published bilingual poetry collections such as Roving Together, Ja Suila Maison de Detwall, and an Oriya collection, Jeu Rasta Mora Nijara. And her Oriya translation, Prem Bhi Ek Yatna Hai, marks a significant contribution to Indian literature. As an editor, she curated an international selection of women poets in English, Seven Leaves, One Autumn. Her research on Krishna Sopti's novels was supported by a postdoctoral fellowship from Lee Foundation Maison des Sciences de Humi, Paris. She has received prestigious awards, including Mahadevi Verma Award in the year 2016, Eunice de Souza Award in 2020, and Kedar Samman in the year 2022. Professor Singh serves as a member of the Board of Directors, International Herbert Marcuse Society, and President of the Association for Creative Theory in India. Now, I would like to request Professor Savita Singh ma'am for her very enriching lecture. Ma'am, please.
Yeah, and acha, before Sabita ji starts, let me particularly appreciate the Odia poetry collection because I am also an Odia and I have read it.
Oh, thank you. There are
Yes,
more collections now than what
yes,
has been quoted.
yes, yes.
Rimbi Ki Atna is in Oriya translation, and the other one, Jis Raah Ko Kahun Apni Raah in Oriya. Both are done by Pravasini Mahakur, who's an eminent poet herself. I really love her for her own poems and the translation that she has done. So it's good that we are remembering her. In fact, I've included her in an international collection of poems done by Priya Sarukai Shabriya, and I've written on her also, on her poetry. So it's published by, again, Jadavpur University. So, Bengal is doing very well as far as this literature, even new literature thing is concerned.
Oh,
And
yes, very well.
Bengal is very vibrant. Bengal is always welcoming, always vibrant. And
yeah,
ma'am, before you start, Nandini ma'am, there is a common academic associate, Dr. Saujanya Puri of NSHM. You remember you were in a webinar and you were streaming live from Delhi. I was speaking from Kolkata. So Savita ji and Nandini ji, just like to draw your attention to somebody in the audience who has joined. So the director of the School of Communication Studies, NSHM, the dean,
and
Professor Saujanya Puri.
I must say that I have also a collection in Bangla done by Mita Das.
Looking forward to that, ma'am.
Published, I think it's published last year or 2 years ago. So the translations are appearing. Doesn't matter.
We must have a sit down with your multilingual poems and we can have the readings and the appreciations like we do for Nandini Di.
Okay, great.
That is left.
Thank you. So should I begin?
Yes, ma'am.
I think since Nandini has to go, so I don't want to take away a lot of time in just chatting. So first of all, because it is, and as you know, as Nandini has been talking about it, and Paramita also mentioned it, my world is a very theoretical world. And it necessarily involves questions like existential questions. Like ontology is a very important part of all my discourses that I do. And there is a school, hermeneutical school, which is interpretive school of social sciences, within which it is a given fact that consciousness is not prior to existence. Consciousness is part of existence. So which means that necessarily we have to deal with the question of being, question of who we are. And the questions that we address as thinkers, as writers, as poets, basically necessarily impinge on forever forever uh, understanding who we are. And it generates a lot of deep discourses, deep theoretical reflections. So I come from this kind of a background. Comparative literature also has an ontological basis, right? That is to say, as human beings, we are never alone. We are with something, with somebody else. We live in a society. This is a very Aristotelian thing that I'm saying. We are social beings. Not only that, we are speaking beings. We are always in language. When we are not in language, like a lot of abstract theorizations, like absurdities. No, there are thinkers of absurdity. Beckett. I will be talking about Beckett a little bit today when I'm going to talk about. I've not introduced the topic. I'm just making the framework for you all. So and women feminists, they are struggling with these two issues which seem to be not in sync. That is to say, existence is one thing and knowledge and consciousness is another thing. It isn't like that. This dichotomy, this binary is something that feminists from the very beginning, they are battling, and they, by way of battling this, they battle a Cartesian world, a world which, the modern world, which was born with a dichotomy between mind and body. You'll find most feminist discourses, early feminist discourses, theoretical ones, they are denouncing this dichotomy. Because what happened? What happened was, and it's reflected in our literature and philosophy and all that, mind became masculine and body became feminine in terms of discourses, in terms of concepts. So this critical ground on which feminists have pitched their own theoretical reflections is the ground on which I also stand. Standpoint theory, for example, feminist epistemology, standpoint theory is very much sort of placed within this world that was created, modern world, within which women philosophically and ontologically found themselves subordinated, mind subordinated body, by bifurcating, by objectifying it. This is something that we are all battling. So in the realm of literature as well, this is the position from where I will be talking today. Now, in the comparative literature thing, that, as I said, that we are never alone, that we are not always dichotomous, that there are always linkages between us, no matter where we live, where we write, where we reflect upon, and so on and so forth. The comparative literature arose out of this intense desire to understand others' literature, to be able to understand oneself more. The relationship between the self and other was a very important foundation on which this particular desire was born. And all literature is literature in one sense, and all literature requires this very intimate treatment. That is to say, we are not we in comparative literature, othering is not something that we are doing. We are creating a world through language and within language in which we can relate to each other. It is a relational world that we're trying to create. And through literature, I can tell you about myself how much I have been enriched by reading Russian literature, French literature, German literature. I would be no one except, when I reflect, who am I find myself, thinking about all these kinds of things that I have read. This literature, this kind of philosophy has actually constituted me and my consciousness. So a lot of people have reservations about feminists being apart, very critical, very different, against men and all that. They don't understand that feminism was born out of this treatment of othering. And it is not othering that we are involved in. We're involved in inclusion, inclusive dialogues, integral dialogues. We're trying to find a composite situations within which everyone can be speaking and others can be listening. Yet we will not dissolve the differences. The differences are there. They are epistemological and also ethical. So this being the theoretical framework within which today I'm going to talk about, the Nobel laureate Laszlo Horkhai. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but I think this is the um, pronunciation that I'm listening these days. So why have I chosen him? I mean, there are many Nobel laureates. First, because it's the one who's just got it last week, and second, because he's extremely important for a feminist mind to understand how this world within which we are living is morally collapsing. It's collapsing in terms of the languages within which the moral world was constituted. And so, at the level of language, Laszlo goes far, far beyond the discipline of language and grammar. Something that even feminists have been, struggling with, because the symbolic order that has been created by the modern masculine world is 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 where feminist expressions have become difficult, precisely because they are already controlled by, they're already predefined by a masculine definition of almost everything, including love, passion, desire, well-being, mind. Anything that you think of is a perfectly systematically defined in a patriarchal manner. So in this kind of a world, when I see a man, a writer, who is not feminist, declared feminist or anything, but talking about the same ills that women have been talking about. This patriarchal world is morally unlivable. For women, it is so very difficult, especially when you become a writer. You want another language. You desire another symbolic order within which your expressions become authentic. They don't have to go through or meander through or negotiate through the masculine grammar of languages that we have in the world today. So, for these two reasons, I consider him to be a very important writer. Apart from other extraordinary, intellectual basis of his writing. People have, and Susan Sontag has called him master of apocalypse. All right, what is this apocalypse? This feminists have to examine why it is so, why things are falling apart. Why do we live in a world today which what it does best is to fight wars and to bring wars? I mean, if you look at it properly, the world today is really in disarray. And this he has been talking about since early 1980s. His first book, novel, Satan Tango, which was published in 1985, was about uh, the incoming collapse of the world that he inhabited. It's about a village, he's a Hungarian writer, born in a small village called Gule, which shares borders with Romania. If I have time, I'll talk about his affinities with Roma people. That is, uh, the kind of community that always lived outside uh, the established ordered Western world. Um, so he comes from that area, and so he was born in that time when world was changed by the Russian Revolution, and the entire eastern part of Europe was came under the communist thinking, organization, parties, state, all of that. And collective farming was a very important experiment that kind of socialism, went with seriousness by saying that the means of production should be socialized and relations of production should change. That was the thing, because relations of production was based on the ownership, who owned the means of production, who owned the capital, who owned the land. And in a capitalist world, there is a distinct distinction between who owns and who labors. That's a Marxist framework, and he sees that this collective farming experiment was also collapsing. because that this kind of this ideology, the communist understanding, did not create a good human being. It still left some people who were clever, who were villainous, who were not good, who did not share goodness, all those kinds of things. And the entire village is full of people who are drunkards, like not established, not really completely ordered by the order that was imposed on them. So the picture of this village that he creates, like a really mostly anarchic, and then this person comes and leads them falsely into a complete disaster, and people die and all that. So this is a doom kind of a story that he wrote. And it just, at that time, Marcuse had just finished writing a book called Soviet Marxism, which was also very critical of the way the system was created out of revolution. A lot of in the West people were criticizing that kind of a experiment that was going on in Soviet Union. And so I think in 1985 is too late for this kind of book to come out. But it's a creative work, it's a novel. It's truer than the truth, basically. That's what fiction, the power of fiction is, that it enhances truth in a way that truth, all other forms of constructing truth, does not allow it to be so enhanced. So, Bela Tar made a 7-hour long film on this particular incident. Slow film, but it requires, like everything, in terms of its treatment, the book itself is not a fast kind of a book. It's a slow, deepening, taking you to the depth and infiltrating layers and layers of existential crisis that had set in, and the final apocalypse, a final doom that he shows in that book. And he became a kind of a recognized artist, recognized novelist by the first novel itself. And the film that Bela Tar made him international figure in a way. People watched that film for 7 hours without really getting bored, because there was so much more to come. Every time, 1 hour passed, the second hour, another uh, scintillating reality is going to be revealed. Then his book Melancholy of Resistance, which he wrote in 1989. This is also a book that it talks about melancholy. It talks about a certain kind of energy that human beings accepted, because things were not going forward as promised. Things were going in some other direction. This is also an important text in this particular sense, and it got him the Booker Prize. And people, the if I have the quotes, what was said about his. It says that the melancholy of resistance, a circus arrives in a small town, unleashing an almost biblical unraveling of order. He uses the known myths, concepts known to people and all that. And this circus comes with a huge whale. The whale symbolizes something. It symbolizes a certain kind of mammoth blunder that Western world was creating by way of uh, by way of either championing capitalism or destroying it. It's a kind of a situation of impasse, basically. And people have compared him instantly with Franz Kafka, Thomas Bernhard, Robert Musil, who's a very, very favorite novelist, Samuel Beckett. And to understand his collapsing world, he goes into another world, thinking perhaps there is a way out. He goes to China, he goes to Japan, and he writes a number of short stories. Okay, and a book of short stories called Saibu There Below, and Destruction and Sorrow Beneath Heavens. It's a kind of a cultural pilgrim he takes to be able to understand the collapse and illness of the Western culture. And those stories are also extraordinary. There's a notion of stillness that he examines. What is it that allows people in Japan to experience silence, to experience stillness? What kind of culture is this which allows you to be calm, not so mad in your chaotic existence? And for him, then art is not a thing of beauty and joy, but humanity's urgent and necessary response to existential crisis. So basically, he's a novelist of Western understanding of existence and its crisis. He does not create hope. His notion of time is also different. You know, in his last Wolf and Herman and Destruction and Sorrow Beneath the Heavens, these are all short story collections. The darkening and this simultaneous scintillating experiment with language made Franz Hawkeye the novelist and the storyteller that he is. And today he will be remembered for his, I think, melancholy of revolution, resistance, war and war, and Sabu there below, and the violence that that is unleashed by capitalism on human being, and the capacity for human being to resist dimming down, vanishing, basically. How can you submit yourself to total war of existence, of state, of society, unless you have been morally robbed of all strength that as a human being you could have. So the Booker judges wrote, when he got the Booker Prize for Melancholy of Resistance, as the book as a whole could be described as a vision, satirical and prophetic, the dark province that goes by the name of Western civilization. So what I'm introducing today is an author who's thinking ontologically, who's thinking deeply, going down to where we exist as human beings, seeking redefinition of what we do, why we do, what we create, why do we create, and what we should be thinking about. But he's not the one who's giving you hope. He's not giving you an utopia. He's leaving you to suffer. He's leaving you to think about darkness. He's leaving you in the middle of all the chaos that has been created by this greed that Western civilization has pursued in terms of colonizing other countries, in terms of imperialism, in terms of, in their own countries, as I said, depleting human being of any self-worth by completely turning them into consumers, into commodities. Marx talked about it, the alienation that people face over there. I would call him also a novelist of complete alienation, which is the basis of moral crisis that he's talking about. Now, why have I brought him today? Not because I said because of the Nobel Prize and the strength of his writings, but also because who would compare to his kind of writing, say, in India? A particular text, when compared with another text, adds to the truthfulness of its birth or its pursuit. And I kept thinking, but there's not much time, but I can take two names here. One, because I come from Hindi, I do a lot of reading in Hindi literature and write in Hindi language. I was thinking of Kamaini, a text written by Prasad, who's a Chayavadi, Jaishankar Prasad, Chayavadi poet and writer. In Kamaini, Jaishankar Prasad goes into a situation where there was a complete deluge, a kind of a apocalypse. He's also reaching back to a situation where everything was destroyed by water, by flood. And he talks about that one person who remained, whose name is Manu. And what, I mean, it's the same kind of deep thinking as to what Manu, the mind, you know, what else did he need to recreate a civilization? In Chandogya Upanishad, this particular uh, incident is talked about the destruction of a time destruction of civilizations, human civilizations. And he brings in two characters, female characters, okay? Shraddha and Ida. Shraddha is what I would call that feminine energy which is represented by eroticism, erotic character, the one who preserves, who creates, who nurtures. And the Ida is intellect. That is to say, feminine intellect. And the world, the new world that gets created is with the help of these two feminine energies. A similar text that I can think of is You Are Anantamurti's Bhava. You know, how this world got constituted, this caste-based world of Hindu civilization, this kind of deep thinking and the moral crisis of this particular world, because casteism is not going, caste oppression is not going. It is woven into every fiber of our society and our consciousness. So this Brahmanical, and second book, his own book, Sanskara, for example. So we should be able to reread these texts in the light of the texts that we are examining today, like, you know, the melancholy of resistance and war and all these texts that I have mentioned in the short stories. So the strength of comparative literature is this, that we get to renew our understanding of the world in which we live through literature. And it can never be done in a manner which is single-minded. It's never done in isolation. It is done in comparison. It is done in appreciation of others. It is not done by othering other texts, but by including them in our world and learning from them by way of reading as interpretation, not as an epistemological exercise, but as an ontological exercise. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for this wonderful and enriching lecture for all of us. And now I would move on to our next speaker, Professor Shabina Nishat Omar, ma'am. Before I start, I would like to introduce her. Professor Shabina Nishat Omar is a highly accomplished academician with over 25 years of experience. She currently serves as professor and head Department of English at AJC Bose College, Kolkata, West Bengal, an officer on special duty in the Education Directorate, Government of West Bengal. A skilled public speaker and elocutionist, Professor Omar is a proficient in multiple languages. She has taught at prominent institutions including St. Xavier's College and Presidency College, and has been nominated for the International Visitor Program by the U.S. Department of State. Professor Omar has numerous national and international publications and has conducted various educational programs, workshops, and webinars as well. She is committed to women's empowerment through education and is connected with various chambers of commerce, including WICCI, HEC West Bengal, and CIIWN. Recently, she received the Global Educator Award for her contributions. Professor Omar believes in being the change one wishes to see in the world and remains dedicated to academia, industry interface, and education dissemination. Her leadership roles include honorary state president of WICCIHEC West Bengal and executive member of CCCLF. She continues to inspire as a lifelong scholar and educational administrator. So now I would like to request Shabina Nishat Omar ma'am, Professor Shabina Nishat Omar ma'am, for a very enlightening lecture. Ma'am, please.
Namaskar, Adab, and a very, very good morning to the audience, the organizers, and my co panelists. I remain overwhelmed, humbled, and extremely privileged to be a part of this stalwart initiative, to be a part of this academic initiative organized by the Hindi University. And I am immensely grateful to the Honorable Vice-Chancellor, Dr. Nandini Sahu, ma'am. I am also extremely grateful to the Registrar, Hindi University, and last but not least, to you, Paromita ma'am, for curating and logistically arranging for everything. Thank you, ma'am, for all your reminders, all your follow ups. I remain absolutely awed by Savita ji's talk on integrating gender studies with life and perspectives with literature, and insisting that life is but a reflection of the literature we read, and literature is but an implementation of the life that we are inhabiting in this world. Without wasting much time, and after welcoming all the colleagues and staff members that have joined from Hindi University, namaskar to everybody, all my dear students who I can see, and some colleagues that I can see, welcome everybody. I am not even going to be audacious enough to attempt to give you a theoretical lecture after the kind of erudition that has been displayed so deeply and simply by Savita ma'am, but I am trying to give an overview. And the topic for today is comparative world literatures. And I would request all of you to mute your mics, please, so that there is no static, because the current rains in Kolkata have left us with a lot of statics. So if everybody could mute your mics and give me just 10 to 15 minutes of your undivided attention, maybe we'll be able to sort this out. Let me present by telling you that my topic is a very simple overview of what today is a new area in interdisciplinary academia, especially world literature. It is called Ocean Studies or the Blue Humanities. Water, they say, is life, and water in literature is the flow. So, the kind of literature that we have always studied as children, it is once upon a time by the side of the ocean, there was a village in which a young man used to live with his family. So, always, even in a once upon a time stories, there is a forest with water flowing across it, with water flowing through it. And sometimes stories are situated by the sea. We have poems written by the river. In fact, one of the most contemporary poems taught in the syllabi is The River by A.K. Ramanujan. So we have ocean narratives, we have river poems, we have water studies. Water is a very integral part of fiction in literature, and even in non-fiction, the flow of life is always likened to the flow of water. So, hence, the concept of water, the concept of the river is very, very important. And I will not read out the PowerPoint and insult my audience, because I know that the audience is more than wise to understand what is written in the PowerPoint. So, I will just explain a little bit as an overview. 70% of the planet's surface is made up of water. And there is a very, very profound connection between life and water, civilization and water, and therefore literature and water. So I, Professor Shabina Nishat Omar, currently serving as the head department of English at Acharya Jagdish Chandra Bose College, affiliated to the University of Kolkata, humbly seek your attention towards a topic called the Blue Humanities in World Literature, Overview and Analysis. So my very first slide tells you, what do you mean by blue humanities? It is an interdisciplinary, integrative field, my friends. It integrates literature, history, and the arts. Because just before many of you joined, the Honorable Vice-Chancellor, Professor Nandini Sahu, ma'am, was talking about how Hindi University is primarily a humanities based university. She was talking about her faculty members engaged in research efforts and endeavors in history, historiography, she said, literature, arts, and the various fields of social sciences. So I found it so relevant that here I was today speaking on the Blue Humanities, which brings together the various fields of literature, history, cultural studies, fine arts, geography, and the very large umbrella of social studies to show how each subject has its own relation with the ocean. An academic relation, a personal relation, a critical relation, a theoretical relation, and yet at the same time, it is not traditional maritime studies, because traditional maritime studies that has always focused on the ocean has focused on economics, science, inquiry based research. But when we talk about the blue humanities, as is the tradition with social sciences, we are talking about the socio-cultural, the cultural, the emotional, and even the spiritual dimensions of man's integral relationship with the sea. And let me take you right back to us as students in the graduation, some of us in the late 1990s, some of us in 2000, some of us in 2005, and that seminal text we used to do, Riders to the Sea by John Millington Singh. We analyzed it as a one act play, we analyzed it as a tragedy, we analyzed it as an Anglo Irish drama, we analyzed it as the cyclical suffering of humanity, and today we have the facility to restudy it as an interpretation of ocean studies and human suffering, human psychology. So, a scholar called Steve Menz in 2009 coined the term the blue humanities and said it is, I beg your attention, it is a humanistic inquiry from perspectives that focus on land to perspectives that focus on oceanic framework. It is a theoretical repositioning. It is a theoretical reorientation that the ocean does not belong only in the background. The ocean takes place as the foreground of human activity. The ocean becomes a vital character, a vital actor. If you remember your university questions of Riders to the Sea, it is said the sea is the important protagonist in the play. And yes, that is the beginning of ocean studies. So the sea or the ocean becomes a very, very important actor, character. It shapes culture, it shapes identity, it shapes the imagination, and it shapes the plot of your literary text. So there is then in the blue humanities a historical shift from land to ocean. The ocean is not just a conveyance, the ocean is not just a scenery, the ocean is not just a trade route, the ocean is not just a background, the ocean is not just a source of sustenance of human life. The ocean is as important as land. The ocean is a sphere of existence. The ocean is a sphere of theory. The ocean is a sphere of orientation. The ocean is a center of human experience. It is no longer the margin. It is no longer the periphery. There is a shift. The center has become the margin, and the margin has become the center. So the ocean can be a point of history because battles have been fought in the ocean. Exploration has been taking place in the ocean. The ocean is also a source of energy, a source of force, a source of power, because the currents, the tides, they are all historical agents of civilization. And the ocean is a center of perspective because many civilizations have revolved around ocean. So this oceanic turn, as we call it, the oceanic change, as we call it. In contemporary scholarship, the ocean challenges the land centricity. Epistemologies are changing. The center is not just the land anymore. The center is the ocean also. We must recognize that biology of the ocean, what we call marine biology, the environment of the ocean, what we call environmental conditions, can merge with historical civilization and cultural studies. And this is a pure interdisciplinary approach showing how ocean currents, seasons, marine ecosystems actually play a central role in how human migration happens, human settlement happens, and the cultural development of a nature, or sorry, of an existential civilization takes place. So please remember, the ocean in world literature starts from Homer's Odyssey and moves on to Herman Melville's Moby Dick. And even then, we have never ever centralized the ocean. If you remember, we centralized the ship, we centralized the warriors, we centralized the whale, we centralized the catchers of the whale, the hunters, we centralize everything else except on the surface of which the action takes place. If there was no ocean, there would be no Trojan War. If there was no ocean, there would be no Moby Dick. So what then is the Blue Humanities doing? The Blue Humanities is highlighting the crisis of the ocean. The ocean studies perspective does not just talk to you about ecology, about environment. It also talks to you about capitalism. It also talks to you about cultural and societal realities. So therefore, there is a concept, and I would ask you to explore this. I haven't researched on it, but I am studying it as a matter of interest. So please look out. This is for all the students and scholars here. Capitalocene, the concept of capitalocene, Capitalocene, meaning industrial capitalism has led to a big change in human relationship with ocean environment. We extract oil from the ocean, we do trade on the ocean, we do illegal activities on the ocean, we fish, we do recreation and tourism. So there are a lot of industrial capitalist activities that we do, and still we ignore the ocean. For example, if we look back at colonialism, we have historical patterns of exploitation of ocean resources. If we look at ocean privatization, then we have the enclosure of oceans threatening traditional fishing communities. We are also threatening indigenous maritime civilizations. There are still civilizations which live in, under, around the ocean, fish and eat for a living, protected tribes, so to speak. If we look at militarization, we are using naval power projects and strategic control over the oceans to threaten, invade, or protect land, political boundaries. And of course, extractivism, deep sea mining, overfishing, fossil fuel extraction, all this accelerates the marine ecosystem collapse. So, we as scholars of blue humanities living in an ecologically and environmentally dilapidating world must look forward and research for change to understand the knowledge of ocean studies, to understand how to seek sustainable solutions through literature, research, sciences, and interdisciplinary initiatives to the sustainability of local diverse cultural traditions and the local ecological wisdom. So, today, when we talk about ocean aesthetics or oceanic studies, and we integrate it with literary innovation, we understand that sea literature has always been there. But from technical stories of sailing to complex imaginative works like Moby Dick, like Rachel Carson's books, the ocean has always been used to symbolize flow, change, modernity, industrialization, and the human being's relationship with nature. The transformation of the ocean from the secondary to the primary shows how societies are trying to negotiate with progress, technology, and at the same time, preservation of the environment. This has led to what we call eco-literature. There is also something, Savita ji was speaking about feminism. So there is also something called ecofeminism, which of course she is a theorist about. So this shows you scientific perspective with poetic imagination. Among the two main writers that I can think of are Rachel Carson and John Steinbeck, who made marine ecology very, very emotional and cultural, made it resonate with the ordinary man. So today, my friends, to conclude, the global and post-colonial perspectives lead to the blue humanities embracing the various perspectives of the ocean, especially the Pacific Islands, who have very sophisticated traditions, who have a lot of technical canoeing, and who are far predating the European maritime expansion. So, when we understand oceanic perspectives, we must understand the cultural and social significance of the indigenous communities, their narratives, their sociology, their historiography, and their very, very deep relation with mainstream society and maritime society. There are various issues that blue humanities looks at. One is ocean grabbing, means possessing territories and resources, taking it away from the traditional users. Then intersectional analyses, how oceans can interact with studies of race, class, gender, social justice, history, and of course, its position in world literature, how we can imagine and relate to various civilizations as they grow up in and across oceans. Understanding oceans, my friends, does not mean understanding only theory. It means understanding science, economics, various scientific allied subjects, literature, the voices of the marginalized indigenous tribes, the voices of the fishermen, the voices of those communities whose survival depends upon the blue, such as once upon a time, we as students taught and studied Riders to the Sea, where it was a world of fishermen focused on the sea. Their life, their death, their joy, their sorrow, their drowning, their fishing was all in the sea. So, if as scholars you want to read a few pieces of literature from the blue humanities perspectives, read The Odyssey by Homer, read The Sea Around Us by Rachel Carson, read The Sea of Cortez by Steenbeck and Ricketts, read Omeros by Derek Walcott, read, of course, The Hungry Tide by Amitabh Ghosh. Read these, embrace the perspectives, see the different cultural voices, see the multifarious approaches to the ocean, enjoy the integration of interdisciplinary perspectives, and let us make ourselves, as scholars of literature, so holistic, so comfortable, and so very integrated. The blue humanities today is an area of scholarship. It is a very, very important academic movement. And those of you who are interested you can Google organizations like the One Ocean Hub, which brings together artists, researchers, poets, writers, literateurs, policy makers, and community leaders to understand the ocean, to scholarly examine the ocean. And eventually, please understand, my friends, because the ocean shapes human history, culture, and identity, it is one of the most integral ways of living human life. It helps us to understand our past. It helps us to understand the present crises of environment, of capitalism, of society, of pollution, of economic inequality. And with our understanding of the past, with our awareness of the present, we can imagine so many limitless future possibilities of exploration, imagination, integration, envisioning sustainable relationships, sustainable initiatives with marine environment and human communities. Today, we are not in a world of competition. We are in a world of collaboration, and thus it is very, very essential to understand the blue humanities to develop a sustainable, equitable, and meaningful relationship with our blue waters. We are facing unprecedented environmental challenges, and therefore, we need to integrate our resources, our subject expertise, our domain experiences, and our life lessons to build sustainable insights, sustainable initiatives, and sustainable solutions for future explorations, for future studies, for an evolving world of academia, research, and action. And this, my friends, is my presentation to you on a topic called the Blue Humanities, which I hope will interest you as I give you a very, very small, but what I have tried to make an exhaustive overview of the topic without pretending to analyze or without even attempting to, mold your point of view. To conclude, a few of my favorite lines from Robert Frost, literally, the woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. Let us travel miles from the woods this time to the oceans. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you to our esteemed speakers for their very enlightening and knowledgeable lecture. And it results that your lecture encourages us to think, to ask questions. And thus, we have few questions from our participants. So I request our participants to ask if you have any question.
Yes.
Rajji, Zara. Yes. Yes, Dr. Guddi Kumari, you have a question? Please
नमस्ते,
unmute.
मैं डॉक्टर गुड्डी कुमारी, शिक्षिका, हिंदी विश्वविद्यालय, हिंदी और अनुवाद विभाग से। मेरा सवाल सवाल भी है और मुझे पूछना भी है प्रोफेसर सविता सिंह मैम से, कि उन्होंने जो 2025 में नोबेल प्राइज विनर हैं लाज़लो क्रास्ज़ानाहोरकाई, उनकी रचनाओं की तुलना उन्होंने जयशंकर प्रसाद की कामायनी से की। तो अगर कोई उनके तुलनात्मक अध्ययन पे कोई काम करना चाहे तो उसके लिए कुछ टॉपिक अगर वो सजेस्ट कर पाए तो बहुत अच्छा रहेगा आगे के लिए, हम लोगों के लिए। धन्यवाद मैम।
Ma'am, you are, ma'am, please. Ma'am, you are mute. Okay, thank you.
आपका बहुत अच्छा सवाल है गुड्डू कुमारी। जो मैंने ये कंपैरिजन किया वो इसलिए किया क्योंकि हम एक कंपैरेटिव लिटरेचर फ्रेमवर्क में बातचीत कर रहे हैं, है ना। इसमें दो बातें हो सकती हैं। एक तो भारतीय सभ्यता के विकास और उसका इतिहास अलग ढंग से हुआ और वेस्टर्न वर्ल्ड का इतिहास और विकास अलग ढंग से हुआ है, ठीक है। लेकिन हम दोनों जो देश हैं या दो कॉन्टिनेंट्स हैं, उनके यहाँ एपोकलिप्स यानी कि उसको क्या कहेंगे हिंदी में, एक भयावह जो विनाशकारी जो स्थिति होती है, वो उसकी कल्पना दोनों जगह पे की गई है। क्योंकि कहीं ना कहीं इतिहास में ये घटित हुआ जब पृथ्वी से एक पूरा सिविलाइजेशन, ह्यूमन सिविलाइजेशन और उसके जितने भी चीजें थी वो सब खत्म हो गई। बाढ़ की वजह से पानी के अंदर सब कुछ चला गया। अभी सबीना बात कर रही थी ना ओशन पर, तो आप समझ नहीं सकते हैं कि ओशन कितना बड़ा थ्रेट हो सकता है। अगर इफ यू मिसट्रीट ओशन, इफ यू मिसट्रीट वाटर, if you do not respect your surrounding and the nature which nurtures you, then that is what happens. इसीलिए जो फेमिनिस्ट स्टडीज है, फेमिनिस्ट राइटिंग्स हैं, अभी सब ज्यादातर इको फेमिनिस्ट ही हैं। क्योंकि सभी को ये समझ में बात आ रही है कि जब ऐसी विनाशकारी स्थिति आती है तो उसमें बचाने वाली कौन सी विचारधारा हो सकती है। और जो बचाने वाली विचारधारा है वो अभी कम से कम इस नई सभ्यता में तो मुझे स्त्रीवादी विचारधारा ही लगती है। क्योंकि वही उसी विचारधारा में केयर है, उसी विचारधारा में संरक्षण है, प्रेम है, करुणा है। ये सारे जो गुण हैं वो स्त्रियों के गुण हैं जिनसे वो अभी भी संसार को चला रही हैं, हालांकि ये संसार कोलैप्स हो रहा है। तो जो इन दो लोगों का जो मैंने कंपैरिजन किया वो इसलिए भी कि हम एपोकलिप्स को, विनाश को, डिस्टोपिया को पढ़ें साथ साथ। जयशंकर प्रसाद के यहाँ वो किस तरह से आता है, छायावाद का कैसे वो एक फिलोसॉफिकल बेसिस बनता है, क्योंकि ये पूरा छंदोग्य उपनिषद से ये चीज उठाई गई है और उसमें एक वैदिक उपनिषद एक व्यू है, फिलोसफी है। और लास्लो के यहाँ कोई ऐसी चीज नहीं, इसलिए वो आपको अंधेरे में छोड़ देते हैं। वो आपको बताते हैं कि देखो ये सिचुएशन, और इसमें अब इससे निकलने का जो रास्ता है वो सबको मिलकर के करना है। कैसे करना है, उनके पास फिलोसॉफिकल बेसिस नहीं दे पा रहे हैं जिसके आधार पर वो एक यूटोपिया क्रिएट कर सकें, समय में एक फ्यूचर की कल्पना कर सके। तो ये दो डिस्टिंक्ट विचारधारा है, इसको आप स्टडी कर सकते हैं। ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट होगा, डिफरेंस बिटवीन टू नोशंस ऑफ एकोपलिप्स एंड टू नोशंस ऑफ यूटोपिया एंड डिस्टोपिया।
थैंक यू मैम।
Thank you, Guddi Kumari, Dr. Guddi Kumari, for asking the question. And now we have another participant, Sangeeta. Sangeeta madam from Hindi University.
Good morning, ma'am. Good morning, everyone. Esteemed speaker. My question is regarding why water is often a metaphor for change or identity in literature.
Ma'am, the one of the very, should I say, predominant qualities of water is that it is in a state of continuous flux. It is always moving, unless it is stagnant water. The oceans and the seas are always moving, number one. Number two, they are sustaining life, whether it is plant life or animal life. They are sustaining life. So it's a microcosm of the universe. Number three, it is always changing. The colors are changing, the speed is changing, the levels are changing. So, all this becomes a metaphor of human identity because no human being is at any point of time stagnant. We may be still. Ma'am, you are a teacher in Hindi University, you are a mother, sister, wife, daughter, or simply an individual at home. Your 6 hours at Hindi University are different from what your 12 hours at home are. You may be different on the 5 days of the week. You are definitely different on weekdays. The way you dress, talk, relax, do activities, everything is different. So you are also in a change of flux, and thus water is a metaphor of human identity. Whether or not you give birth to life, you are sustaining life. You may or may not have children, but you have family. Whether your family is in your state, a different state, you are taking time out at some time in the year to spend it with family. You are either sustaining your family physically or you are providing. So you have your own universe within the universe, the microcosm and the macrocosm. And the same, ma'am, and there is an endless number of similarities and metaphorical resonances that we can go on. But in these main ways, water is an epitome, a symbol of human identity because of its flux, its movement, and its sustainability of life and symbiotic relationships. The plants take in something from the water, they give out something to the water.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am. Understood.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. It's a wonderful question. Thank you so much.
Ma'am, we have last but not the least question from Dr. Shomita Mitra. Madam, are you there? Please ask your question.
What way does the concept of blue humanity challenge traditional anthropocentric views in ocean governance?
Ma'am, actually, we can't hear you. Could you please?
Concept of blue
Yes.
humanity challenge traditional humanitic views in ocean governance.
Could you please repeat your question once more, ma'am?
I think I've got that. She's saying the blue humanities have challenged traditional humanistic views on ocean governance.
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am,
Yes.
when we talk about ocean, this is something I have also mentioned in my PowerPoint, but maybe you've joined in late. When you talk about the ocean or the sea, what do you talk about? You talk about geography, environment, and you talk about capitalism, that is trade, commerce, industry. But when we talk about ocean, that is ocean studies. When we integrate ocean studies into ocean humanities, we move away from governance, administration, politics, capitalism, environment, and ecology to integrate all that we learned as traditional studies into a literary and cultural perspective. So the studies remain, the traditional studies remain, but the shift becomes in humanities. The shift moves from science to culture. That is the difference.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much. It was a wonderful question. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shomita Mitra. Thank you, all the participants, for your very valuable questions. And thanks to our very distinguished speakers for their answers. As we come to the end of our very knowledgeable webinar today, before we leave, I would like to thank the valuable participants once more. our Honorable Vice-Chancellor Professor Nandini Sahu ma'am, our distinguished speakers Professor Savita Singh ma'am and Professor Shabina Nishat Omar ma'am, and a very special thank to the Team Hindi University for organizing this webinar. Thank you so much. Thanks to all of you
Thank you.
and have
Such
a
a
very
pleasure.
good day.
I also wish to thank all of you, particularly Professor Nandini Sahu, who asked me to join today. And uh, I thank you, Paramita, for writing
Thank
to
you.
me all the
Thank you so
time,
much.
and Sabina, who has introduced a lot of students and teachers to this new humanity. I will just add one thing, if it's possible. Sabina, the question that was asked earlier about shift in notions of humanism and related and consequential theory of governance. The thing is that the earlier notion of humanism was based on territoriality.
Yes.
Territory was the basis on which human beings uh, uh, built their lives and their philosophies. Now that they have destroyed most most of the earth,
Most
no?
of
Yeah, and Sabina was talking about um, post-human condition within which we are living, and partly this destruction has been brought about by capitalism because
yes.
it is a philosophy, it's a way of life that is lived by profiting, by making money. So what it has done is it has made us one-dimensional human beings, whereas we were always multidimensional.
Viva.
And
Yes.
in this multidimensionality, you could add oceans, rivers, plants. All these things have always been part of our lives, and they have related to our humanity much more deeply than how the academia built by the capitalist interest of profiting has allowed us to understand. So this is the real crisis about which the Nobel laureate Laszlo is also talking about. So this is the
Talking about.
clarity between our presentations. Thank you very much again.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Very
Thank you.
enriching, and
Thank
thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a very good day.
Same to you.